So a phrase is a group of related words, which is why they are also referred to as a word group. You should check with your school which term they use and use the same terminology. Phrases are used to provide us with more information about a noun, a verb, an adjective, or an adverb in a sentence. Here are some examples of the different types of phrases. A noun phrase or noun group describes a noun in more detail. My neighbour's child is a noun phrase. We can use the pronoun my to point to the noun we're referring to, or use an article such as the to distinguish which child we are referring to, such as the child. We can also include an adjective or an adverb to describe the noun in more detail, for example, my neighbour's child, or the child next door. Notice that the noun phrase can come before or after the noun. A verb phrase or verb group is made up of a main verb and an auxiliary verb, such as is, was, or had, or those variations. The auxiliary verb tells us if the action takes place in the past, in the present, or whether it will take place in the future. For example, in the verb phrase have tried, tried is the verb and have is the auxiliary verb. We can also add what's called a modal verb, such as will, can, must, or should. And the modal verb tells us about the certainty of the action or the obligation to do something. So for example, should have tried. In a verb phrase, the order is always modal verb plus auxiliary verb plus main verb. Then we have adjectival phrases. They function just like an adjective by modifying the noun, such as exceptionally luxurious car or the car covered in mud. As you can see, adjectival phrases can also come before or after the noun it modifies. Like adverbs, an adverbial phrase modifies other words by telling us where, when, and how an action occurred. For example, they stopped suddenly, or he fell asleep during the lesson. Lastly, in a prepositional phrase, the preposition always comes at the beginning and starts with a preposition such as on, over, near, by, in, and so on. A prepositional phrase usually performs the function of an adjective or adverb. For example, on the fence describes where the person or object sat, and in the morning tells us when someone swam. Now it's your turn to have a little practice. On your worksheet or on a piece of paper, add a group of related words to make a phrase. Okay, let's keep going. So these are my sample answers. Of course, you could have had anything there, but for the noun phrase, I had the Burmese cat, which obviously distinguishes it from other cats. I used both a modal and an auxiliary verb with jumped, so could have jumped. I used words to describe coat, to make an adjectival phrase, blue woolen coat. I described how the person sang very loudly with an adverbial phrase, and my prepositional phrase was in the water.